Recording.
Hello, everybody. So, in 1 week, Karpathy left a one-man education startup to do pre-training at the company that just leapfrogged OpenAI in valuation. Anthropic agreed to send Elon $15 billion a year for compute. Cursor matched Opus 4.7 at a tenth of the price using Musk's other GPU farm. Google said the word quadrillion on stage for the first time in terms of token usage. And a 24-year-old's hedge fund went from 254 million to 13.7 billion and shorted $8.5 billion worth of stocks just before Nvidia's earnings. Welcome to the Gen AI Meetup podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Shashank, and I have Mark joining with me. We're both senior software engineers at big tech. Now we're exploring other things. Mark is working on a video editing startup using AI. Check it out at novacut.ai. But if you're joining us for the first time, we talk about AI news, tech, a little bit of speculative investing, hashtag not financial advice. But we've got a full docket today, a lot of interesting news. Let's start with Andrej Karpathy. Mark, what do you think about this?
So Andrej Karpathy is kind of, I don't know how to call him properly, but I kind of look at him as almost like the big brother of everybody in the AI space. So he is kind of like your big brother, senior developer who is like always there to help you whenever you want to understand a concept. And he has this great educational resource called I think it's like AI 0 to Hero, where he will show you from the basic calculus, and then you go and you can follow along and build ChatGPT. So he is a genius at all of these things when it comes to AI. So he was head of AI at Tesla. He worked at OpenAI. He left to start his own educational company, and now he just posted on Twitter that he is going to join Anthropic. And I have to say, hats off to you, Mr. Karpathy. I wish you but nothing but success at Anthropic. And I think that it's going to be great for him because and I honestly great for Anthropic because I think he's going to take his work that he's done with auto research and try to bring that over into Anthropic. So auto research was his side project that he made where he tried to basically have LLMs do research, experiment, and try to develop themselves. So I think that he made a little toy project that blew up on GitHub, and I imagine that he will go and then try to continue that at Anthropic, and then maybe that will be the thing that actually brings us into an age of abundance and have true AGI or even ASI, because once you have recursive self-improvement, which it looks like Karpathy is experimenting with right now, once you have the 1,000 employees or whatever working on self-improvement, recursive self-improvement at Anthropic, you might be able to have Anthropic just come ahead of everybody else. So super exciting for Andrej, and I wish him nothing but the best of luck.
Yeah, this is one of the key missing pieces we need for to reach the singularity and AGI or ASI. We have frontier models that are capable of near human intelligence or surpassed human intelligence in certain domains. But then to keep improving these models, it's costing frontier labs like trillions of dollars. They spend so much on compute, on researchers, on energy, and all of these things are proving harder and harder to scale because each step change in capability needs like an order of magnitude more in money, in compute, in energy, maybe researchers, in training data. So this, what Mark mentioned, RSI, recursive self-improvement, is like the holy grail. If we can get the AI to improve the AI, that's just going to create this virtuous cycle that's going to fuel an age of abundance and get us to ASI, artificial superintelligence, sooner. So he is reportedly going to focus on accelerating pre-training research itself. He's going to use Claude to build Claude, specifically in the pre-training step. So yeah, this is cool, and this is also kind of to take a step back, indicative of how popular Anthropic has gotten, both in the public vernacular right now, because it seems like everyone is using Claude Code, and in the research communities. Like, it's getting a lot of respect from some of the top researchers and top tech talent. So here's a little overview of all of the people who have moved to Anthropic. Several CTOs of big tech companies have taken a demotion to join the member of technical staff at Anthropic. And I'm just going to list out a couple. The Workday CTO, U.com, Instagram, Box, Super.com, Adept AI. All of their CTOs have left those companies and joined Anthropic as members of technical staff, which is just ridiculous.
That is so ridiculous. Like, imagine going from CTO of a publicly traded massive company to become like a regular developer at a startup. I mean, I mean, can we call Anthropic a startup? I mean, sort of. They're a relatively new company. They haven't IPO'd yet, but they're one of the largest companies. Because what do you call it? Right? It's like they're almost $1 trillion company. I think we were trying to coined the term like a narwhal, right? Because it's like if a private company of $1 billion valuation is a unicorn, but if Anthropic is $1 trillion private company, they must be therefore a narwhal. So, I mean, maybe all these CTOs know something that we don't, and maybe they think that with Andrej Karpathy, with all of this mindshare, and it does seem like Anthropic is an excellent place to work. Shashank and I were talking about this a little bit beforehand, but they haven't really had much drama, right? Like, OpenAI seems to have like a crazy drama every week, right? I mean, they ousted Sam Altman, and then they brought him back a couple days later, and they're doing all these things with the government. But like, Anthropic is not running into too many things that is causing mass employees to leave. I mean, they do have a lot of scale, and they're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But in terms of AI companies, it seems like a lot of people enjoy working there. Anthropic does have a lot of focus spent on safety. It seems like people like it, and now that they're bringing in all these really smart people who, like, seem to really, really wanna work there, I would imagine that the atmosphere around the office is just electric, and they're probably gonna be able to do very, very good things. So, it's so exciting.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Karpathy joined Anthropic, because a couple months ago in a podcast, he'd mentioned that he is out of touch with um, the frontier research labs, because he'd taken a break. He was working on his own education tech startup, and he's like, if you need an intuitive grasp of what is going on in this AI space, you need to be in like a frontier lab working on the cutting edge stuff. And I guess that's kind of what he's doing right now. And yes, Anthropic is uh, by far the best brand name right now, I want to say. So a couple numbers. Their valuation, at least on private markets, has surpassed OpenAI's. They're reportedly around $950 billion, which is, sounds like a crazy number, but it is a reasonable multiple of their revenue. It's about like 30 times their revenue, or 30 something. Actually, no, sorry, 19 times forward revenue, compared to OpenAI, which actually went down in valuation, which is like 35 times forward revenue. So these numbers, as absolute numbers, seem pretty big, but it is representative of other tech valuations in public markets. and they're reportedly planning an IPO soon. So is OpenAI, and so are a couple other companies that we will talk about soon. But yeah, Claude is doing amazing work, and they're doing so good that despite being banned in China, both by the US and by China, Chinese developers are finding workarounds to try to get access to the Claude API through various proxies, and reportedly offering 90% discounts on the Claude API through black market channels where they kind of have a farm of Claude Code subscriptions that, if you guys are aware, the subscription pricing is a lot cheaper if you max out the subscription compared to an API pricing. Because with an API, you're paying per request. So they can't like lose money. They can't subsidize that. They got to charge you face value with some markup. But with the subscription, you're pooling in your cost of API usage with every single other customer of Anthropic. And so they can subsidize that because not everyone uses all the subscription every 5 hours, every week, every month, whatever. So these Chinese black markets are finding ways to reverse engineer the Claude Code APIs, proxy them through various servers, and offer them to Chinese developers at a steep discount. But like when you dig into some of these numbers, you find that the actual API that they're offering is sometimes some of the lower tier models, the Sonnet or the Haiku, and sometimes it's not even a Claude model; it's like a Gemini model. Sometimes they have reported that they are using that as training data. So they'll offer you the proxy for cheap, but then they'll steal your prompt and response to use that for training other models. They've also been it's been speculated that a lot of the Chinese frontier labs are using this method to try to distill Claude's bigger models into some of the smaller models like DeepSeek, Kimi K2, and so on. So a lot of interesting workarounds going on, a lot of violations of terms of service. But hey, this is like a gold rush, and I think people are trying to do whatever they can.
That's super interesting. When you showed that in the podcast notes, I was looking at that and I was trying to see like, hey, maybe I can save 90%. That'd be pretty cool. But I think you kind of convinced me that
It's
maybe
too good to
this.
be true.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking because I was on the top plan for Anthropic for a while, and then I eventually canceled just because of their usage restrictions. But if that's how they're doing it, where they're just these Chinese actors are buying like 10,000 subscriptions and then just allowing you to use it, but then they're routing it to other models and or using Gemini or probably some of the Chinese models, then to me it doesn't seem worth it at all. Especially because like I was having issues when I was just paying Anthropic full price for the top of the line model. However, to be fair, I have not tried since their recent SpaceX deal,
Hmm.
which I think is good for Anthropic because I don't think we mentioned that yet on the podcast, but it seems like SpaceX, who worked with XAI, who has their massive data center in, I believe it's Memphis, Tennessee. They weren't able to use all of the resources. So now Anthropic is signing a lease with SpaceX to be able to use some of their data centers so they can go and actually keep up with some of the demand. As opposed to if you contrast that with OpenAI, OpenAI has a lot of data centers which they are paying for, which I mean, we'll see if their actual revenue makes up for the ability to actually pay for it. But it seems like Anthropic is actually growing at a reasonable pace where they're able to afford the data centers, and they're growing so fast that I mean, they're just essentially being hugged to death where their service was suffering just because so many people wanted to use it. Now, I don't know if Anthropic will ultimately win. We shall see. I think that it's a race between lots of companies, but Anthropic is definitely in the hearts and minds of a lot of developers. But yeah, I don't know. This 90% off. That's it does seem too good to be true. And honestly, I think that if you're looking for something that is 90% off, like you should just use a Chinese model. Use the Xiaomi model or DeepSeek or Kimi K2 because those are also about 90% off the price of Anthropic, and they're just about as good. Honestly, I think maybe slightly worse, but you get probably 95% of the way there. And I think that when we're saying like these models are slightly better or slightly worse, both all of the top of the line models make mistakes, right? So Anthropic is going to make mistakes. OpenAI is going to make mistakes. Google is going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to make mistakes, and maybe Anthropic will make slightly less mistakes, but you still need to, be careful of the responses that you get. You need to check for hallucinations. You need to add error correction code if you're using this in production. You need to validate the responses that you get. You need to run benchmarks because just because Claude makes maybe slightly less mistakes than DeepSeek doesn't mean that it doesn't make no mistakes. And also, like models like DeepSeek or Xiaomi or Kimi are oftentimes better in certain use cases than Anthropic. So just to say like, oh, just use Anthropic and you're done. I think that depending on what you're doing, like is okay. But for a lot of use cases, a lot of the Chinese models actually may be a little bit better. So, anyways, that's just my 2 cents there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think each model is different is better at different benchmarks. Anthropic models are pretty competitive all around, but depending on what you're trying to do, you might be better off using a different model. And moreover, I think like most people, especially businesses, when they're focused on a use case, you pick a model and then you build an entire harness, you build an entire pipeline, prompt engineering, eval set around that model and that version of that model. And every time the version changes, even your entire eval results will change a little bit. So it's not like you can just pick the best model as soon as the new model comes out. If you are running some business critical use case, like even for even what you're doing with NovaCut, editing videos, I'm sure you have a bunch of prompts, you have an entire pipeline where you have optimized everything to work well with a specific version of a specific model. And when a new model comes out, if you just replace it, I think it may not necessarily be good because your entire company is built around that specific version of that model. So I think there's a lot of nuance here, and these gray markets, in whatever industry, like you can talk about like the drug trade where you have like hawkers on the street selling illicit drugs, and that's definitely worse and adulterated and can be potentially lethal to people compared to like pharmaceutical grade, which is 99.999% pure. So that's kind of like the analogy that I think of here. Um, but you
Wait,
mentioned
so you are comparing LLMs to drugs?
they're both something people want bad, desperately, and they're willing to do whatever whatever they can to get their hands on it. But that comes with some downsides, is what I was trying to say.
I think I'm still trying to piece together the analogy. So it's like, okay, are you saying it's like the difference between
Well,
like meth and Adderall or something?
Well, specifically, like the black market that is emerged around reselling Claude API credits in areas where it's not allowed. So they adulterate it, which is they mix it in with a bunch of different models. They steal your data, which is potentially lethal, which has a lot of privacy concerns. They'll just look at what you're sending them and then use that as training data for their own models, so they're benefiting, which is also analogous to like illicit drug trade. But we can move on from this analogy.
All right, that sounds good. I
Uh,
think it's a pretty good analogy now that you explained it a little bit more. So what's next? Google I/O.
you
Google did so much stuff here.
Sure, yeah,
What
yeah.
should we start with? There's like I don't know. There's a million
Um,
things we could talk about.
a lot of good stuff, but the biggest is they have new model. They have Flash 3.5. So apparently this is better than the 3.1 Pro, and it's pretty comparable to a lot of the frontier models. And the benefit is that it's fast. As with all other Flash models, like Google's um, claim to fame has been like uh, a good balance of performance, speed, and price. So I've been a big fan of Google for the last few years. After they rebranded from Bard to Gemini and really stepped up their game in this AI race, because they're the only company right now that is fully vertically integrated with the hardware, the models, and the products built on top of the models. Much like Apple dominated the iPhone era. So they have been able to really capitalize on all of the TPUs that they've been building on with uh, their recent fork of their TPU architecture, one for training, one for inference, and really offer blazing speeds with the Flash model. Let me pull up the release, and then we can
Yeah.
share.
So the Flash model, I think, is very exciting, and it's definitely very good. It seems to be better than all of the Chinese models, right? It seems like it's slightly better than Kimi K26, the Xiaomi model, a little bit better than DeepSeek, better than XAI. It seems to lag a little bit. So on the benchmarks that I found, it seems to be slightly worse than Gemini 3.1 Pro Preview. If you kind of combine all the benchmarks together, but it's still really good. But I don't think we can now say that Gemini 3.5 Flash is competing on price anymore because it's now expensive. So the I think the price for a million output tokens was like $9, which is a
That's more,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a similar price to the top model from ChatGPT, and it's a little bit cheaper than Anthropic, but we are now at kind of price parity almost with like ChatGPT and Anthropic. I mean, though like ChatGPT and Anthropic are slightly more expensive, but um, it's like probably like almost 10 or 20 times more expensive than a lot of um almost as good Chinese models. Now this OpenAI, or sorry, the Gemini 3.5 Flash model will win on speed, and it maybe wins on reliability. I don't know, but I don't think we can say that it's competing on price anymore. So I'm scared to see what the 3.5 Pro model will price at, but I think Google's gonna have to really compete on intelligence and speed and other things, because right now it does not seem like they're competing on price really at all.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I have noticed they've been bumping up the price of every model, even the flashlight model, which I love because like it's really really cheap and decent for quick tasks. But even that has been bumped an order of magnitude. But I think that's probably a healthy sign for the Alphabet shareholders, which indicates that they're being realistic about the price and not offering heavy subsidies to just get more market share. But one interesting point is they've made the Flash model available to everyone in search through their AI overview feature. So they've been focused on merging AI and search for a while now. They had like a brief snippet up on top. I think it was like called the AI overview or something. And then they had a separate tab similar to how you can look at images, news, regular content. And then they had AI mode. So now they're expanding on that to bring kind of like agentic search, which offers a bespoke experience powered by Flash. So, somehow they're justifying the cost of this, but it is interesting to see them pricing this model at like $9 for 1 million tokens and also offering this in search.
Well, I think that Google is very smart. There's some of the smartest people in the world working there, and I think they want people to use Google for search and not ChatGPT or Perplexity, because I think that ChatGPT and Perplexity and Anthropic have probably, I don't know. I don't have any insight to the search numbers, and Shashank, I don't think you do either. But just me speculating here, I would imagine that a lot less people are actually searching for things with Google, and then they are using one of these LLMs in order to just get their answer. And now people, when they go to Google, they're going to be able to get the answer that they want without ever having to leave Google. And I assume that uh, Google is going to start putting in great ads into the AI mode as well that are going to answer exactly what you want. And I don't think that they're doing it too hard yet, but I could see a future where if I search for shoes, they're going to show me some results of the exact shoes that I'm looking for, and probably show some affiliate links or some links to Nike or Adidas, and I'll be able to get exactly what I want. And as an advertiser, I think that'll be great because Google has the ad network for the entire world, and if I and also I think that like as an aside, right? Like I think that uh, AI ads are actually really exciting. Which I know sounds ridiculous, right? Because I pay for search. I don't get any ads in my search. I pay for the $200 a month OpenAI plan, so like I don't see any ads, right? But the thing is 97% of people roughly do not pay for ChatGPT, right? Like most people do not pay to use these LLMs. They use it for free. They don't know what an LLM is. They don't know they don't follow the updates like, you who are listening to this, right? They just, ask their question, they try to do something, they get a response, and that's it, right? But um so I think that right now, while the model companies are still fighting, people are still looking for the most intelligence. People are going to pay for it. Plus, a lot of these companies are getting VC money, throwing it in. There's a huge horse race, right? Where profits don't matter. It's all about growth. But in some point in the future, the profits are going to start to matter, right? And it's not going to be about growth. And this is going to become more of a mature industry where, yeah, the new latest and greatest models will matter, right? But for probably 99% of people, your Gemini 6 Flash Lite will be so smart that it won't even matter. But people will still want to use it because it'll be able to answer their questions. And for that situation in the long run, there needs to be a sustainable business model. And ads in AI results are going to be super sustainable, right? Because people are going to ask more and more questions. The token usage is going to increase, and people don't want to pay. Maybe because people won't have jobs in the future because the AI is going to take all their jobs, so they won't have money. However, they still may have money to buy things like shoes and clothes and maybe a little bit new software and stuff. And for that, um, advertisers are still going to want to be able to get in front of people in the future. And now the ads can be so much more precise for exactly what somebody's looking for. Because as myself trying to get in front of people who want to buy video editing software, it's really hard to uh, get in front of the right people at the exact time that they're wanting to buy, right? So you have to kind of maybe get around with search ads. You have to go for awareness with some meta campaign ads. But oftentimes, like when somebody is searching for something, or like when they are aware of something, they're not ready to buy at that time, right? So if you see a billboard of like Nike, you might not be ready to buy shoes for another year or something until your current shoes wear out. But then you're like, oh, Nike, that's a place that I can buy shoes, right? Or like a Coca-Cola. Like you might not be thirsty right now, or maybe you just want water, but now you're aware of Coke. But like with AI ads, people will be able to get exactly what they're looking for at the exact moment they need it. And they'll be able to sort through not just like who was able to game the top of Google, but in theory, they'll be able to get the exact product that they're looking for, and the friction will go down. And I think that this will be a sustainable model that these companies will be able to take the ad money and then develop better models, and it'll work out really well. So I know that people don't like ads, and I'm not the biggest fan of ads either, but I do think that this will actually be a positive development for the future of a lot of these companies.
That's funny because I actually like ads, but I think the opposite. I feel like people have gotten accustomed to using these LLMs without ads, and I think this trend is going to continue because Google has been a company that's been sustained on ads for ever since its IPO, and same thing with a lot of other companies. And ChatGPT hired someone to try to work on a potential feature where they show ads in some of their free products, but that never materialized. And I think people have gotten used to paying so much money, like $200 for a Claude Max subscription, and similar for like the top tier OpenAI and Gemini subscriptions. Like $200 seems to be like the price because recently Gemini also reduced it from 250 to 200, but they're willing to pay that much for a lot of use. And these companies are also able to offer cheaper models for free because it's a lot lower cost, a lot lower capability, compute cycles, whatever. So I think the ads model may not translate to the LLMs. But speaking of growth, I just wanted to highlight some numbers from the IO presentation, and we've jumped almost like an order of magnitude. It's 7x year over year growth in the number of tokens processed. Google was generating about 480 trillion tokens around the same time last year. Now they're generating 3.2 quadrillion tokens. That's a big number. Um, uh, Mind-boggling numbers, but they're able to do that, I think, profitably too. At least a lot of these other companies are able to do that, especially Anthropic has been profitable for the first time this month, I believe. And so Google has been injecting these models throughout their products. They have like several products that have over 1 billion users, some with over 3 billion users. And I personally have been using this with YouTube for a while. And I think that's why a lot of other online creators also subscribe to Gemini, because it's one of the few tools that has native access to YouTube and is able to answer questions about a YouTube video, which has been really helpful. Docs, I routinely use this for editing Google Docs. I think they introduced this in Google Photos too. They already had some AI search capability in Google Photos, but now it's even better. But my favorite announcement from Google I/O was Gemini Omni. So this is their new multimodal model, which is able to accept any kind of input and output text. I'm playing a video from the demo, and this shows really coherent videos with an understanding of real world physics, collision, interaction, coherence, object permanence, um, reminiscent of the world model demos that DeepMind showed us a few months ago. And so they're combining a lot of the capabilities of VO, which is their video generation model, and the world models that they demoed into one like cohesive model. And I feel like this is the nano banana moment for video. It is able to produce coherent videos and you can also give it input videos and ask it to like edit certain things. So this demo is it, showing a ton of stuff. Like it's moving at such a speed that I can't even talk about everything that it's doing. But one of the highlights are taking a scene and asking it to change the textures of that scene, the colors of that scene, the background, remove it, add another person. So this is able to solve like video generation with high consistency, much like how Nano Banana was able to solve image editing with really high consistency. So this is going to be really exciting.
So I'm a bit confused at to the Gemini Omni because I saw the announcement and I thought it looked cool, but I was confused as to the exact difference it is between like this and VO because I thought that VO was able to do something very similar with synthetic video generation, and I'm confused as to like what how Omni is different.
Well, you can compare VO to some of the early image generation models. So like Imagen that Google had. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but like this is like um, in the same league as Dolly 2, Midjourney, which were really good at what they did. It's just that they weren't able to maintain consistency with characters. If you asked it to edit one thing, it wasn't able to just do that one thing. It would like regenerate the whole image. Whereas with Nano Banana and then also ChatGPT's recent um, image 2 model, uh, they're able to take an input image from a user and only edit one single part of that image. For example, if they had a picture of us sitting in front of the camera and I asked it to change my hair color, it would be able to do just that, whereas previous models wouldn't be able to do that. So now with Gemini Omni, it's able to do the same thing for video. It can take a screen recording of us talking and then dynamically change our hair color, turn us into a unicorn, and edit us in place with video, which
Oh, I
VO
see.
wasn't able to do.
Okay, so it's just like video editing, color correction, things like that on existing video. So I think that's probably similar to this seed dance model. I think that can do something very similar. And I haven't done enough research to know which one is better, but it's good to see that Google's in the race. And honestly, this might be something that I should include eventually in NovaCut. I think that would be something very cool because NovaCut right now, my AI startup that does video editing, um, only will edit your existing footage, doing things that are similar to what you can do in existing like traditional video editors. Like if you were going to use Premiere Pro, it wouldn't allow you to give the person a funny hat without a lot of extra effort, right? Like you're going to do things like cut the video or change the color, fix the audio, stuff like that. And that's the type of thing that you can do in NovaCut, but you can't do fully synthetic things. But maybe in the future that'll be something that I'll look into. But that's not really the direction I'm going right now because I don't want to compete with Gemini and ByteDance. However, that might be a feature that they eventually need to be come out at some point in the future. But there's no promises on any timelines because that probably won't happen anytime soon. But yeah, it's cool. I like the idea of this, and good job, Google.
Another takeaway that I had is these companies are moving towards more agentic interfaces. So Gemini 3.5 Flash was apparently trained from the ground up to be agentic. And one of the cool new features that they have is this thing called Gemini Spark, which is supposed to be a long running background agent available 24/7. It hasn't launched yet, but this is reminiscent of, I don't know if you ever remember, like 6, 7 years ago, Google released something called Duplex with the old pre LLM AI assistant. where they call the restaurant on your behalf, asking to make a reservation. It understood the um, uhs and ums of the restaurant owner, was able to filter out the background noise, take your requirements of making like a reservation for 2 at 7 p.m. at Casa del Sol or whatever, and then communicating that, getting a confirmation, and then adding it to your calendar. So this is kind of reminiscent of that, except powered by LLMs. It is a voice model. It can talk. It can like run the agent 24/7, do things that are useful for you. Um, and so this will be kind of exciting to see once it starts rolling out. Hopefully it does roll out and Google doesn't cancel it. But I think this is where the world is headed.
Yeah, I have been using a lot of things, not this, but I've been using Codex and their computer use capabilities for a lot of stuff, and it's really helped with a lot of workflows. So, for example, I have been giving it some of the login information for some of my personal websites and using MCP, and I have it just configure things and set things up for me. So, Codex, it can go and then use the browser pretty effectively, right? It can also do things on your computer, right? So it can not only run shell commands, but it can open your browser, navigate the different websites, click around. If you give it the access information, I mean, if you give it your credit card, it could buy things for you, right? It could make stock trades on your behalf if you wanted to do so, right? In theory, in the future, we're going to be able to say like, "Hey, Google, make me money," and it'll find out a way to do so. So I mean, this is just the beginning, and I mean, right now it's only controlling your computer, but I mean, in the future, it's probably going to be controlling robots. By the way, Shashank, did you see that live stream with Figure where they had the robotics company? Let's see if I don't think we had this in the notes, but it got me remembering. Figure AI is a robotics company based out of Sunnyvale, which makes a humanoid robot. I think they've raised a lot of money, but they have. Let me see if I can share my screen on this. But they did a live stream that was like 12 hours, 8 hours. They were doing this for days, where they showed a robot just sorting packages, and they even had a robot go and compete against a human, and they were counting the number of packages here. So as you can see in the video, they just show a robot going, pushing packages, sorting them out, inspecting them, looking at the tag, reorienting them, and then putting them on a conveyor belt. And they had the robot run this for days on end. And I think actually the human was a little bit more efficient, but the human had to go to the bathroom. It had to go eat. It had to take a break. But Bob, the figure robot, just kept on working. And yeah, if you're curious, you can go and watch the live stream. It's not interesting in the slightest, but it is cool to show that you can have one of these robots run for so long, and the stuff is coming, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, exciting times for robotics. I actually canceled my Neo 1X subscription. It was another humanoid robot company from 1X Tech, where it was similar to the Figure robot, but it was more covered in fabric. And I think they had human operators operating it for now until they still collected enough training data to um, make it fully automated. But it's mostly because I'm not in the US right now. I'm traveling all over the world, but I think robotics is happening. I'm just not sure what time frame we're expecting.
Yeah, that would make sense. You wouldn't want to have a humanoid robot coming to a non-existent address, especially if you're not here, unless they could go ship it to like your hotel. But then I don't know. Imagine trying to get that through airport security. That would be pretty challenging, I think. Um, anyways, uh, yeah, so let's see. Lots of other things, little things from Google I/O. There is this 6x capex, 6 times capex spend. It looks like uh Google has raised their capex from 31 billion to 185 billion. And you mentioned that they were profitable, but I found this website. So that said, like, is AI profitable yet? I don't know. This is a fun one that I found on Hacker News, and they said no. So they were mentioning how much Google has publicly said that they were going to have an AI capex, and they estimate this website. I don't exactly know who came up with this website, but they estimated that Google had spent $287 billion in AI capex, but they only had made $25 billion directly from AI. Now, to be fair, Google can afford it, right? Like Google is in a healthy financial position where they can afford to lose money on a new product or category and potentially world-changing product, that it's okay that they're losing a couple $100 billion. Not that big of a deal. And I mean, they're not losing as much as Amazon, because it looks like Amazon, they said, has made investments in $313 billion dollars into AI capex, but they've only made about $22 billion from AI. But it does seem like pretty much the only company that's actually profitable from AI, according to this website, is Nvidia, which makes a lot of sense because they are the true shovel makers in this AI gold rush, whereas everybody else is trying to do things a little bit higher up the stack, right? And I think that it's very hard to make profits selling subscriptions to LLMs. But hopefully, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta will make money from their data centers. But yeah, it seems like we're not profitable yet. But I'm still holding out hope. It might take a couple of years to get a return on the investment. But there's a lot of smart people working these companies. So if they didn't think it was a good idea, I'm sure they wouldn't do it.
Well, to clarify, Nvidia is the only one that isn't spending money on hardware. They aren't building anything physical. They're a design company, as opposed to Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, Meta, Oracle. At least those top five are all spending capex on data centers, on building physical infrastructure to run these chips that Nvidia is designing. And I think even Anthropic has committed to build its first data centers for $50 billion. XAI has also spent, I think, close. They're on target to spend about 30 billion this year for a tiny company. But we can also talk about how they're going to be not so tiny in the coming months. But I completely believe that this capex spending is justified, because what we're building here is digital intelligence. And I don't know if I mentioned this a while back, but like if you think about the GDP of the world, like GDP is a combination of deploying labor and capital. And what we have now is digital labor that can scale um, as uh, as much as we have GPUs and infrastructure to support it. So the GDP is going to balloon. The value creation is just going to balloon. We just need data centers to run them. And so that's the biggest bottleneck right now. And that's what companies are speeding and rushing to build. Um, in fact, Google is like seeing so much value out of the TPUs that they are using it mostly for themselves and trying to offer whatever is left to its cloud customers. Google Search is the biggest user of their own TPUs, of the own hardware that they're building, designing, not fabricating, building, designing, and deploying. search is one of the biggest customers. And even working internally in Google, we are like scrambling to fight for compute within our own company. So this is like a massive shortage, and every little bit helps. And
Yeah,
it's only going to be like this going forward. I don't think there's ever going to be a time where we're going to have excess capacity.
maybe. I don't know. Like I think that a lot of capacity probably will start going to the edge and on individual people's device, right? Because right now I think that it requires you to call a server. It needs you to go through OpenAI's API, or you're going to go hit Google's data center in search, right? But I think that not now, but probably in the next couple of years, we're going to start seeing a lot more highly capable, good models be moved onto the edge. Like I assume Apple is probably working on this. I would imagine a lot of Android manufacturers are working on custom chips, maybe with Qualcomm, with MediaTek, and they're going to try to run a lot of these LLMs on your cell phone, on your computer, so you won't actually have to go and hit an API, right? Like, I know we talked about this a little bit last time, where I think it was like the Quen 3.6 or 3.7 model was really capable. Like, was it as good as the top of the line model? No, but it was something that you actually could run on a laptop. And once we have custom chips that are made specifically for running LLMs and you can run them in your phone and they're good enough, like I think people are going to use that. So, while I do agree that I think token usage will increase, I think we have to remember that 90+% of people don't pay any subscription, right? And just because there is demand maybe internally for more tokens, and just because there is more demand for these models, and just because like we're gonna have a like abundance, right? Um, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to get actual profitability from that, right? Because like to me, just because like the demand for tokens is increasing and just because intelligence is increasing doesn't mean that people are going to like the companies that are making these data centers, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have profitability, right? Because if the costs of to run the LLM, and the price per token goes down to zero, uh, then like where does the money come from, right? Like if if all the compute is available to everybody worldwide for free, we get a surge of growth and abundance in the world. But a lot of these companies who had the capex just won't make money from it. And I'm still not convinced that like these companies are going to make their money back from the AI spend. I hope they do, but and I think that as I said before, I think ads is a good way to do it, but I don't think it's going to be from people paying $200 a month subscriptions. I really don't.
All right, so I'm going to take the contrarian view with a lot of conviction, and I strongly believe that we're headed straight for the singularity. We are getting intelligence that is on another order of magnitude. I published a video recently on our YouTube channel that showed the increase in time horizon for how long these LLMs can operate on their own, and it's like a straight line on like a log chart. It like keeps doubling, I think every like 14 months or something. Don't quote me on this. But these LLMs are able to do more and more work autonomously on their own. And there's always going to be a bigger and smarter LLM out there in the cloud. As fast as the open source, open weights Chinese models are progressing, there's always going to be closed weights, more capable models at a premium that people are going to pay for, because like why not? Look at like the world operates in power laws. People pay an order of magnitude more for this or at least they used to for this 10x engineer, um, compared to like a 1x engineer. The 10x engineer is going to make 100 times more, not just 10 times more. And similarly, I think people are paying a lot more for intelligence that is, maybe like 20% better than open weights models that might be free. And even if they are free, it's not going to be free to run it locally. You do have to buy physical hardware that has a life cycle that gets outdated every few years. But the cloud keeps growing. It can keep updating. You can get the latest model on subscription. I think we're moving towards a brave new world where we're going to see insane things, new scientific discoveries being made by these AI models. But let's talk about some numbers to demonstrate this. So, I recently participated in the Cerebras IPO, which, if you guys don't know, we talked about Cerebras a few times, and they had like a wild journey for their IPO. Um, they were projecting a price of around, I don't know, like 120 or something, which would place them at a market cap of maybe like 20 something billion. Um, then last minute, they bumped up the price to 180, which also bumped up their valuation to 30 to 40 billion. And as soon as they IPO'd, their price shot up twice again, to close to 60 plus $1 billion valuation, because they're focused on inference. And the world is shifting again from training to inference, where before the frontier labs were investing hundreds of billions, if not like trillions, at least collectively, training these models on large clusters. Now, most of these companies are spending more on compute infrastructure to offer these models to customers for inference, because um, customer usage is going up, not just the sheer number of users, but also the usage per user, the agentic capability of each model, the thinking models. Instead of just spitting out an answer immediately, it thinks a lot more coding agents, which are just doing work, spitting out text, uh, on and on without you even looking at it, and doing work in the background. So much so that labs are changing the way these models respond. Because like all the RLHF that was done was, excuse me, was done to optimize for chat. Have the user ask something via a chat interface and have the model respond something via a chat interface. But now a lot of the thinking that these models are doing is just continuing this chat conversations behind the scenes, which is like a proxy for thinking, and then they consolidate all of that and then give you another chat response. But like the labs are trying to change this internal thinking mechanism so it's less chat like and more optimized for thinking. But either way, a lot more tokens being burned, a lot more use cases emerging where these models are replacing entire humans. I mean, coding is entirely changed. We talked about the Google I/O announcement. One of the new announcements was Anti-Gravity 2.0, which just removes the code editor. I downloaded it, and they don't even bundle the code editor anymore. They're like, if you need it, you need to download it as a separate IDE, because like who even needs to look at the code editor anymore? You just like vibe with the AI agent and build features at blazing fast speeds. So all of these things are contributing to massive token usage. And Cerebras was one of those companies that is really, really good at inference speed. So whatever you ask, it's going to be able to spit out much faster, and with much lower latency, because of their very interesting architecture. Maybe we can get into that. But that's my like bullish case for token usage going up, AI companies continuing to invest in frontier models, people willing to pay for proprietary models, because the value that we're getting out of it is increasing as well.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and I think that in general, your argument is correct. I agree that probably the token usage will increase probably people will start to use more LLMs. I think that the part that I still am not um, able to quite square away is if only about 3% of people pay, and the free models are getting better and better and better, like where does the actual profit come from, right? Like, because unless you have somebody giving you uh money to use the model, like where does that money come from? Like I get that Cerebras is able to make money because like their profit model is clear, right? Like OpenAI borrows money or like, gets investor funding so that they can, give Cerebras money. So like OpenAI is paying Cerebras, right? Um, so it's like investors are paying OpenAI, OpenAI is paying Cerebras. Like G42 is paying uh Cerebras, right? And then G42 is giving them money, right? But like that's the hardware company, right? For OpenAI, it's like they are able to sustain themselves by investment, right? From people who think that OpenAI will be more profitable. But unless you actually have customers or people putting their credit card and giving OpenAI money, then OpenAI will not be profitable. So like while I agree that token use will increase, people will use it more, like I don't know if they will actually get profitable. It kind of reminds me of the history of aluminum. I was just kind of looking at this the other day on the Wikipedia page, right? So it's like aluminum when it's been around for a long time, but when it was first created back in like, I think 1856 or 1825, aluminum was actually more expensive than gold, right? So it was only royalty that would use aluminum furniture. And then over time, the methods of mass production got better for aluminum. And now aluminum is used everywhere, right? Like I'm drinking out of an aluminum can right here from sparkling water. Like we have aluminum foil. Um, Aluminum is basically, I mean, it's not free, but people act as if it's free, right? Like you put it like to cover your food or to drink about a can that you just throw it away. People literally just throw the aluminum cans away. And you can get like a nickel for the can, maybe, right? But it's worth almost nothing. And like, yeah, the companies that are making the aluminum and doing the bottling, they make some money. They're doing okay, right? But they're not like super wildly profitable. Just the price went down. There was an equilibrium, and then like even though aluminum usage has surged probably to higher than ever, like these companies are not rolling in their swimming pool like a Scrooge McDuck with $100 bills. And I think that like with AI, like right now, we're kind of in the period where GPUs are like gold, right? But like over time, like there's going to be more ASICs that is going to bring down the price. The LLMs are going to get less expensive over time, and it's unclear if the profit will actually be there. And I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I am willing to be wrong, and I think there's a lot of smart people who disagree. But to me, just like like I just don't know where the actual money will come from. But again, I could totally be wrong, and I hope I am because I hope a lot of these companies make a ton of money. But I just don't know.
Yeah. I think I think we are in this infrastructure build out phase because um, we have just discovered, or the whole world has discovered, how useful these LLMs are, and we're trying to build out the infrastructure to catch up with the demand. Um, I think I think there was an A16Z video or an interview of Mark Andreessen where he talked about how this is very similar to the internet boom, where people were scrambling to lay cables across the sea between Europe and the US, thinking that this massive cable that was uh, sending maybe like a gigabit of internet was enough forever, and we would never need more than this undersea cable that they had built at that time. And that was completely false. And they always needed more internet ever since, to an extent that now we have Starlink deploying more satellites than anyone else to cover the Earth with internet connectivity. And so I think we are seeing a rapid growth right now, but it's also true that like after the internet boom, like if you think about the value creation as like a pyramid, with most of the value initially being created by like the hardware, the cable manufacturers, then the providers like maybe like AWS or something providing like that internet, and then at the very top maybe some companies like Yahoo that were making money just a little bit, but then that pyramid inverted. Now like the cable laying company is nowhere to be seen on the world's largest companies. Instead, we have search, we have social media, we have Uber, we have Airbnb, all of these applications that were built on top of the infrastructure layer. So there's a hypothesis that this pyramid right now will invert. This pyramid that now is largely composed of Nvidia, TSMC, and all of the bottlenecks around the infrastructure build out, and some of the hyperscalers and some of the AI companies. But I think the pyramid will invert at some point. Maybe we will reach some saturation of model capability because we are seeing diminishing returns. Like there's scaling laws to get an order of magnitude improvement in these models. We need like an order of magnitude more compute, more data, more energy, which at some point will feel intractable for our civilization as it is now, until we like colonize the solar system or something, which might happen with Elon. Um, but we are seeing, like if I take a step back, we saw how companies went from pre-training to inference time compute to now just full-on inference and agentic capability. So we're we're kind of focusing more on runtime, inference time, agentic capability to do the thinking instead of pre-training. And there's a good article by Latent Space, which is a fun podcast for AI engineers, that talks about how, in contrast to a few years ago, where the wisdom was that the model is everything, now people are saying that the model alone is no longer the product. There's a tweet from Greg Brockman, one of the founders of OpenAI and the president of OpenAI. AI, all the model labs are now agent labs, is the claim from AI engineer. And this seems to be true. Like Gemini is focusing on agentic capability. Claude Code is an AI agent. Claude Code is what took off more even than the Opus models. Now we have Codex, which is again a coding agent, and Claude Cowork, and I think OpenAI has a similar feature. And so all of these AI models are moving towards agentic capabilities. So maybe I can agree with you in the sense that we might reach a point where all of these models have become commoditized, and the applications that are being built on it will be the real winners a couple of years down the line.
That is kind of my thought process. Like to me, I look at a lot of these model companies as in kind of this fight to the death where nobody really wins. Where it's like OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepSeek, uh, Google making LLMs in particular, are all going to eventually, like the trend is, just give away their LLMs for free, and like the cost to use the LLM will, like the marginal cost will be essentially zero. Um, in the aggregate, right? Like if you think about like the internet back in the day, people were paying for bandwidth, and it was very expensive. Like you used to have to pay per text, right? But now like you go, and then I'm getting, I think my cell phone plan is $25, and I have unlimited calling and unlimited texts. And if you would have followed the trend back in like the 90s, right, of text, you would say like, oh well, text messages are increasing. Cell like not cell phone, I don't like well, phone usage is increasing, internet usage is increasing. Therefore, like all of these companies are gonna have so much money, and we're gonna have like like nothing but success. But like if now follow what happened to a lot of these companies, a lot of the fiber laying companies, they went out of business, right? Like a lot of these cell phone companies, they had a hard time, right? Because there was a lot of infrastructure they needed to maintain. Um, the actual price that people are paying for cell phones, um, it's like it's a sustainable business model. Like I mean, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, all these companies are doing fine, right? Like, but they're treated more as like utilities, right? Like, I don't think anybody thinks that like T-Mobile is like the hot new tech startup, right? I mean, like you need them, right? The backbone for a lot of core infrastructure. The usage is incredibly high, right? Like, I mean, everybody has a cell phone in their pocket, but they're not a growth industry anymore. They're just like high dividend paying companies, churning out a solid dividend. And I personally think that's where we're going to end up going. But again, I guess we'll see. So I don't know.
Well, one clarification is yes, T-Mobile isn't growing, but AWS is also a utility. It's like a compute utility. It's a private company, but they provide something very basic, which is a commodity that has been commoditized. There's a lot of other hyperscalers, cloud providers, neo clouds, smaller companies that offer compute capability that are all like commodities, but that industry is rapidly growing because the market that it supports is growing rapidly, which is like um, computing, IT, software, and now AI that is running on all of these compute clusters. So I think, yeah, like there's only so many humans out there who can like make phone calls, and the human population isn't growing that much. But AI, which is digital intelligence, I think is going to keep scaling. And even though it's going to become a commodity, it's going to become a commodity like the hyperscalers. The barrier to entry is pretty big. It's not that easy to build your own foundation model. It's not that easy to continue scaling it and offering it to customers at scale, staying competitive. And so that's enough of a barrier to entry to keep it like an oligarchy where a few players are competing. And even though it is a utility, I think they'll make as much money as the cloud providers did in the last decade.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm still not completely convinced, but I can see where you're coming from. So,
But
I don't know. Anyways,
speaking of
yeah.
people making money, though, someone who's going to make a lot of money right now is Elon, uh,
Yeah.
with his upcoming IPO, where he is going to put out his second $1 trillion company on the stock market, with SpaceX planning to IPO at a $1.75 trillion valuation, which is going to be the biggest IPO ever in history. And there is a lot of like funny business going on in this IPO. Some of the financials, one notable thing is how uh, Elon convinced the NASDAQ to fast track adoption of SpaceX into the NASDAQ 100. So all of the retirement funds, the pension funds that invest in the NASDAQ companies usually wait, I think, like more than 30 days or something, but they're going to be able to include SpaceX just after 15 days of IPO. Usually, I think they wait for the price to stabilize, but they said no. SpaceX, we're going to include you as fast as possible. And so right after IPO, I think 15 days later, they're going to include that in the NASDAQ. So whether you like it or not, you're going to be an investor in SpaceX, whoever is listening right now, through various funds. But this is exciting because they position themselves as an AI company. So the S1 filing is very interesting. They claim to have a total addressable market bigger than the GDP of the United States, at more than $28.5 trillion, most of which, like 90% of that, is coming from AI software services. So, and SaaS services through AI. So when I talked about the pyramid inverting earlier, right now SpaceX is the bottom of the pyramid, providing like the infrastructure layer. Their only moneymaker right now is Starlink, which is profitable. It's wildly profitable, because they have a monopoly in this industry and they're able to offer satellite internet for anyone anywhere on the planet. Um, it's helpful in rural areas where infrastructure is hard to come by. They offer it for like ships and whoever else wants it. You can get SpaceX on a plane. So this is a very profitable company. Then they had like a merger with XAI, which included their social media platform X.com, and also XAI, which was an AI research lab started by 11 other people who have all since left. And now XAI is being gutted and rewritten entirely. So I think like the close to 200 billion or something that they spent on XAI is being scrapped, and they're rewriting that entire product from scratch. Which is not to say that they don't have any value. They actually have a lot of infrastructure built out, as we mentioned earlier, because Anthropic is going to be purchasing compute from XAI for um, one point, excuse me, $1.2 billion a month, for up to 3 years. So that's going to be a massive revenue for XAI. And they're just figuring that they're going to make as much money right now while they're restructuring their own internal AI team, and make money off of compute and kind of become like a cloud provider. Because why not? They also have wild plans to build data centers in space because you have abundant solar energy and it's very cold in space. Cooling is one of the big requirements for data centers. So there's a couple of challenges there, but that's one of the planned projects that they have. And another interesting point, I think we talked about it in our last episode, is their option to buy Cursor for $60 billion. So at the time, I was like, holy crap, that seems like a lot of money because um, I think Windsurf was bought by Google for 2 billion. This is 30 times that. And yes, Cursor used to be very good, but now Claude Code is uh, highly competitive. I mean, like I stopped using Cursor, um, and people are moving away from using an actual IDE to just vibe coding and talking to AI agents. But the interesting point about this that I think is Elon, in classic Elon style, is going to have a massive valuation. It's going to turn into a meme stock, and SpaceX price is just going to be an insane multiple of their forward earnings, and they're going to be able to buy Cursor at a heavily discounted price by offering SpaceX shares, to get one of the world's best coding agents to kind of like jumpstart this XAI brand again. Um, so yeah, I talked about a lot of things, but yeah, the SpaceX IPO is happening, and I'm probably going to invest. Hashtag not financial advice.
You're gonna invest in that?
I really want to. Yeah.
I'm hesitant to do so. I don't know. I mean, $1.75 trillion, that's so much money. Like, I don't know, like, can the retail investor actually even afford that? Like, because I don't know like the exact economics of that. But it feels really big. And I know that you said they have a $26 trillion total addressable market, but like, I mean, what
That's
is
a
that?
crazy number. I don't
Let me
think
do some
anyone's
math.
buying that.
1.75 divided by 26 is 6%. So they're saying that they're going to get 6% of their TAM, but I think that I don't know. I remember seeing like model usage, but I think that the XAI models are far less than 6% of the model usage right now. And also
I think
like
it might be like low single digits. Yeah,
yeah, I think I thought it was less than 1% if I
it's
was
3% or
mistaken.
something.
Is it 3%? What
Yeah,
the
because well, I mean, to be fair, they have X.com, they have Twitter, and so there are a lot of people who at Grok to fact check and ask Grok within Twitter itself. So it's kind of like their own usage, but it is a sizable chunk.
it is
Single digit, though,
usage.
low single digit.
Although I guess they probably lose money anytime somebody uses the at Grok because they don't charge for that, right? Like, I mean, the
Of
only
course they
way.
do.
How do they charge it? Like, if I have an X account and I at Grok and then Grok responds, I'm not paying for that, right? It's just free.
No, you need to have the paid plan. They might give you like the lower, tinier model if you have a free account.
Oh, okay. Um, but
But
regardless, yeah.
to their kudos, I was looking at some of the voice models for just a side project, and they have the best voice model right now, according to Tau Bench, which is TAU Bench. It's called Grok Voice Fast or something, and it beats GPT-2 real time. It beats Gemini Live. Claude doesn't even have a voice to native voice model, so to their credit, they've done some good work in certain domains. But sorry,
Yeah,
continue.
and also to be fair, I think that Grok has increased their capabilities very rapidly over the last few months. So, like Grok used to be the top dog when they had like I think it was like Grok 4 Heavy, and they were beating everybody. And then I think they were lapped, and um, now they're still not in the lead, but they're catching up. I think that they are now kind of around the same level as like Kimi K 2.6, right? So the Grok is now around the state of the art Chinese labs, which are about 2 months behind. So I would say that like in terms of like time, if you look at like benchmarks, Grok is roughly 3 4 months behind of one of the state of the art model, which is not bad. I mean, it's good, and also like they have, and SpaceX is gonna have like rockets and stuff, and that I mean they're clearly the state of the art rocket company by far. Starlink is amazing, and the XAI is just like one small part of Elon's greater vision. And I actually wouldn't even be surprised if SpaceX and Tesla eventually merged together to some sort of like super awesome company where they will make chips, they'll make humanoid robots, they'll make cars, self-driving cars, AI models, just like I feel like you'd call like Tesla and or SpaceX or maybe just X, I don't know. It'll be the kind of future company because I feel like everything that Elon Musk touches is really cool. And to be fair, Elon Musk also was a co-founder of OpenAI. I think a lot of people forget that. And OpenAI is the uh, of top dog right now, I think, in terms of model benchmarks. And Elon Musk was a co-founder of that. Now, they famously had the public falling out, and I don't think we talked about this yet, but Elon Musk actually did lose the trial against OpenAI. So, brief history of that. Elon Musk sued OpenAI because um, you know Elon Musk claimed that he was giving OpenAI money to make AI for the betterment of mankind, and then OpenAI then became a for-profit, and now it's unclear exactly everybody's motivations, but they kind of ousted Elon Musk. OpenAI became de facto ran by Sam Altman, and not Elon Musk. anymore. And then Elon Musk went and started his own competitor, and then Elon sued uh, Sam Altman and OpenAI in Oakland, California for damages, and Elon lost, just not necessarily due to the merits of the case. I think he may have won in public opinion, but he lost due to a statute of limitations, because they said, yeah, maybe this wasn't good, but you waited too long to sue. Therefore, like, everything is void, and you don't get the $100 some billion that you were asking for. But I think Elon Musk, even though he didn't get his $100 billion, I think he will be able to still afford lunch. I think he'll be okay. So he'll be all right. Anyways, yes, exciting news for SpaceX, and I wish them nothing but luck and success in the future.
I think this is still the win that he wanted because, like he mentioned, in the court of public opinion, now OpenAI is not that good anymore, and Microsoft, as a result, so throughout this trial, they had to disclose and make public a lot of the emails, chats, and communication that the execs at Microsoft, including Satya Nadella, their CEO, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, and Greg Brockman, and a bunch of other people. And some of the tweets and emails are hilarious. They're like, Satya was like, no, there's no way we're going to sink trillions into this AI race without even knowing who's going to be the winner here. And fast forward a couple of years later, Microsoft is like down several hundreds of billions of dollars. And then Sam asking Mira Murati, like, is this bad? And then Mira Murati saying something to the effect of, this is like really, really bad, unequivocally. It just shows what a shit show they were, which, might have been the result for Sam's ousting. The fiasco with their nonprofit for-profit conversion, despite Elon suggesting that way back when and then refusing, and then tons of people leaving. So it's a real shit show, at least organizationally. Even financially, it seems like they've gotten a lot of flack from investors for being so distracted, trying to do so much with Sora, the video generation, which was operating at a heavy loss. Because video is expensive; it's worth like 1,000 pictures, and each picture is worth a lot of words in terms of token usage. And them trying to target enterprise, but their consumer strategy not fully fleshed out, and a lot of people who have left. So I think Elon in some ways might have gotten what he was looking for.
I think that's true. One other thing I wanted to mention. So I wanted to mention a correction from last time. So I think it was last time or a couple episodes ago, I was talking about Cerebras, and we were kind of speculating as to why Cerebras had a worse performance for the GPT Spark model. And I had thought that the reason is that Cerebras could only actually fit smaller models onto one Cerebras box. And that is partially true. However, I actually talked to our good friend at Cerebras, and he gave me a tour, and he showed me around, and he made sure that I knew that it is possible to actually split a model between multiple Cerebras boxes, just like how you can run a model on multiple Nvidia GPUs. You could also split a model on multiple Cerebras GPUs. So the reason why the Spark model from the Codex Spark model is slightly worse is just because it's a worse model than the Codex model. So Cerebras hypothetically could run any OpenAI model. They just aren't. They're running a different model that's a little bit smaller, and it's just a faster model. So that's a correction I wanted to make. But I looked at Cerebras's office. I can't really say too much because I signed an NDA, but I can say it's very impressive and it's very, very cool. So I just, have nothing but like proud vibes when I think about Cerebras, and I just really regret that I didn't invest in it when I learned about it at $20 a share. So such is life. What are you gonna do? Um anyways, so Shark, I think you're paused. Anyways, but uh
I'm back.
okay, well, welcome back. It's good to
Yeah.
see you.
So uh, I think I mentioned earlier that I participated in the Cerebras IPO, and I have similar um, FOMO, because I looked at the opportunity, and at the time, it was still very early. I think this was even um, pre LLMs. Um, I invested in a couple private or secondary share marketplaces, and I saw Cerebras. It looked fascinating. What they were doing with like wafer scale computing, and uh, I was like, this seems really cool, but like I didn't understand the space that well. And then once again, after ChatGPT came out, I was like, oh, this is cool, but like I didn't understand or who are the dominant players. Nvidia is like winning. They have CUDA. What does that mean? Then there was like the debate between, okay, how much compute is going to be shifting between training and inference. People were still focused on training a lot. Inference was like an up and coming thing, which they were speculating, okay, one day inference is going to get way more than training. And I think both is true. It's just at the time I didn't have enough convention to think about this. But someone who did have a lot of a conviction, is this wunderkind called Leopold Aschenbrenner. So there's a really good podcast with him and Dwarkesh Patel from about a year ago. And so the highlight for why you should care is he started a fund, raised $254 million, and grew it to a ridiculous $13.6 billion. Let me see what that is. That is 256. That is a 53x return, not percentage, 53x. So that's like several thousand percent increase in about like 18 months, which is just like mind-boggling numbers. It might be the best performing fund of recent years, if not for like a long time. So he bet on the bottlenecks of AI compute, specifically the energy required to run all these data centers. Because little bit of a background, he really smart guy who came from Germany to study at Columbia, graduated at 19, really early, went to work at Sam Beckman-Fried's philanthropic fund. SBF was the runner, the founder and CEO of FTX. Later on, found to be defrauding investors and double dipping and double investing, until like the whole thing came crumbling. But he was caught up in that mess, but eventually found his way into OpenAI's super alignment team, where he realized that we're going to reach AGI. We are getting there really, really fast, and we need to start planning for that future where we are going to have intelligence that is as good or better than humans very, very soon. And some numbers were floating around, and he wrote some articles and shared them around for consensus, and suggested 2027 is when we reach AGI. Shared that outside of OpenAI, and then got fired for sharing this content, which he did in good faith. I give him the benefit of the doubt. I think OpenAI was going through a lot of um, bureaucratic drama of their own, so he got caught in the crossfire. But then he started this fund, and has made like astonishing returns. So you can check it out. Situational awareness LP. They list out their positions. You can see what puts, shorts, call options they have on various things. Um, I'm seeing that they've made 20 million% on Intel. It's like fucking ridiculous numbers here. Obviously, they made a lot of losses too. Not everything that they've made has been widely successful, but I think it's clear that overall their successes far outweigh their losses. And you know, I'm starting to believe that AI is going to eat the world, and one way um, people can take advantage of it is by investing in these AI companies. Again, hashtag not financial advice. This is just what I believe in. Um, and this is one strong case of that idea.
Yes. Um, uh, Kudos to this guy. That's really impressive. I wonder if we could ever get him as an interview. I think he'd be a fascinating person to talk to.
Yeah.
But that'd be pretty cool. Also, I had no idea Intel just popped up. I remember a couple of years ago, I was considering buying it at like $6 or something. Now I don't. Now what is it? It's like 120, or maybe it's less than
Well,
that. I
it
don't
is
know.
the only it is one of the few places in the world that can fabricate chips. And now that we're going through such a massive infrastructure build out phase in this AI gold rush, people are seeing Intel as well, the only place in the US that can fabricate at a scale and offer chips to all these AI companies. I don't know how much of that is materialized. I know there's been some uh, investments from various AI companies. I'm not sure how much of it has materialized and what the timelines are, but yes, it is playing like a pivotal um, position in this AI gold rush, especially strategically for the US.
Yeah, especially strategically the US, because I think the US now has a 10% ownership in Intel. So when Intel
Mhm.
wins as American citizens, if you're American listening to this, we all win. So I guess that's kind of cool. Uh, Anyways, yeah, that's exciting. That's basically all I had. I don't know if you had any other topics you wanted to discuss, but that was everything I wanted to
No,
talk about.
that's plenty. We talked about a lot of AI news. One last thing is, Trump took a World Star crew of top execs from all these companies, Elon, Jensen, Tim Cook, and a couple others to China to meet their uh, counterparts in China. So um, you can read about this. The seating arrangements were very interesting. The um, Tim Cook was placed next to one of the other CEOs in China who leads a manufacturing company, and she builds the glass and the outer casing for all the iPhones. And similarly with Elon, they placed him next to manufacturing leaders. Um, Fun fact was Jensen was almost not about to go, and Trump saw the roster and he's like, "Wait, Jensen's not here." And then he gave him a call, I think, last minute, and then Jensen flew over, and then they all made their way to China. So uh, this is like a crazy time. The world is at the whim of these powerful world leaders um, who are doing just like ridiculously absurd things at absurd valuations. Some reporter was asking Trump how like the global markets are going to handle all this volatility, and Trump just said the whole world is a freaking casino. Like it is what it is. So it's crazy time we're living in.
Uh, Crazy times indeed, and no matter what happens in the future, I think it'll be very interesting and exciting, and I'm here for it because the future is exciting, and whether or not these AI companies make a lot of money in the future, it will not even really matter because a world with AGI or ASI is going to be a world I want to live in. So very exciting stuff. But yeah, I think that's all we had. So yeah, you want to call it here? Good.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a good one, everybody. And again, Uh, subscribe on YouTube if you're listening. Uh, go and leave a review for the podcast. We're trying to grow this thing. And if you enjoy listening, thank you again. Leave a question on YouTube if you're curious. And also go to the meetup. If you're in the Bay Area, go there. The meetup is still running. You can talk about AI in person. So, anyways, thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you in the next one.